came from. I mean, you said.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Shabbat Shalom. We are back, continuing on with our Torah study. Thank you very much.
You have the link?
Tessa's got the link.
Tessa, can I get the link?
She sent it, didn't she?
I don't think she sent it. Yeah. Extra sure. Oh, yeah, there it is. She sent the Hangout link, though.
Yeah, that's the only one there is.
That's the only one today?
Okay, so we are going to be looking at Deuteronomy 26, 26 and 27, I guess, is both of them there. We have, I guess, they're kind of short chapters. We will go through them here and see what it is we can pull out from these verses here. I'm gonna pull up Deuteronomy 26. Let me pull this up here. Let's see. Let's see. We'll just read for now 1 through 9.
All right. And it shall be when you come into the land which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance, and you possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take some of the first of all the fruits of the soil which you bring from your land that Yahweh Elohim is giving you, and shall put it in a basket and go to the place where Yahweh Elohim choose to make his name dwell there. And you shall come to the one who is priest in those days, and say to him, I shall declare today to Yahweh Elohim that I have come to the land which Yah swore to our fathers to give us. And the priest shall take the basket from your hand and place it before the slaughter place of Yah, your Elohim. And you shall answer and say before Yah, your Elohim, my father was a Persian Aramean, and he went down to Mistram and sojourned there with few men. And there he became a nation, great, mighty, and numerous. But the mysteries did evil to us and afflict us and impose hard labor on us. Then we cried out to Yah, Elohim of our fathers, and Yah heard our voice and saw our affliction and our toil and our oppression. And Yah brought us out of Mistram with a strong hand and with an outstretched arm, with great fear and with signs and wonders. And he brought us to the place and has given us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey.
Okay. All right. So we see here where Moshe is going through these things that are dealing with these first fruits and these offerings that when you go into the land, you bring these first fruits before Yahweh. Now, I thought it was interesting when, how this thing is kind of carried out. Because if we look back, verse 2, you would go and you would put the first of your fruits of the soil, like all of your first fruits, into this basket. And then you go to the priest, and then there's this thing that you say, which I thought was an interesting part. It's this thing that you say. It wasn't like, it don't even seem like it's like a like something that you would say just from the heart, like you would just make it up, but you would literally say, it says in verse 3, and you shall come to the one who is priest in those days and say to him, like this is what you can already say, I shall declare today to Yahweh your Elohim that I have come to this land which Yahweh swore to our fathers to give us. Like that's what you said. Like it's like a little a script that you went through. And let's see, verse 4, priest takes the basket, sets it down at the altar before the Almighty, and then you got this other piece that you say. My father was a wandering Aramaean, or I guess that could be Syrian. I think also that could say. It's talking about Jacob who went down to Egypt, sojourned, and so on and so forth. So I was thinking about it's talking about when you go into the land, when you get to this place of promise. When you get to this place, this land that's flowing with milk and honey, when you get to the place of receiving your blessings or whatever it may be that the Most High has made available to you, it's important to remember the process, because what we see here is this thing that you're declaring, this thing that you're recalling is the process. It's how you got to where you're at, right? It's even though you're in this place that's flowing from with milk and honey, you're remembering back where you came from. You're not forgetting the process. You're not forgetting all of the things that was done to you previously, and most importantly, how the Most High brought you through those things. Sometimes you get to a place and the Most High is blessing you. You receiving all these blessings from the Almighty, and sometimes you can look at somebody else different because you forgot that you used to be just like that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's important to not let the place that the Most High has got you to forget not only where you came from, but who got you there, right? And we see both of those things in these declarations that you're supposed to say. You think about the fact that you became this great people, but you was just a family that came into Egypt, but you became this great people. And then all of these things happen to you, right? All of this oppression and stuff that happened from Egypt, and then the Most High come and he rescues your people from out of here. So I wanted to look at we look back because part of this declaration is looking at where you came from. So if we look over at verse 7, I want to let me put it in this other version so we can look at some of these words. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens just in verse 7 if we look in there, right? So first of all, we see Let's see here where it says, then we cried to Yahweh our Elohim, from our fathers. Oh, and he heard our voice. That, of course, is Shema there. He heard our voice. So it's interesting. It's always interesting when we think about this word Shema, because it's not like to hear just the audible thing, right? It's not just the hearing, like the sounds going in your eardrums and reverberating your ears, and you being able to recognize the sound, but there's action connected to the hearing, right? If I'm yelling to my kids to come here, and all they do is say like what or huh or something like that, that they didn't hear me. Like they heard my voice, but they didn't never come. Like there wasn't an action connected to it. So when we look and we see that the Most High, he heard the cries of that we cried, right? He heard the cries that we cried unto him. He heard those. He heard our voice, it says. Right. So he heard it, and then there was action. But the same thing, it could have just stopped right there. It could have just stopped and said that he heard our voice, because Shema again involves action. But he also said he looked on. So he heard our voice, and then he looked on our affliction, our labor, and our oppression. Right. So when we look over here at this word for look, ra'ah, yes, it means to see. It means literally to see, this word ra'ah. But it's interesting that this word ra'ah is also is synonymous with the word that describes this bird of prey. This bird of prey, right? So when these birds of prey, they fly up high, they look down low, they see their prey, and then they swoop down in and they engage in it, right? So when we see this word ra'ah, it's like unto Shema, where it is there's action attached to it. So the Most High heard our voice, he heard our cries, and then he looked on the things that was going on to us, and then he made action on the thing. So there's kind of two things going on here simultaneously in terms of him hearing our voice, and he heard our cries, and then he looked on our affliction, our labor, and our oppression. Okay, so when he looked at our affliction, I want to see some of these things, because when we look at these words here, affliction, labor, and depression, I want to just go into some of these here. Okay, so affliction. Looked on our affliction. That word is on e, which means depression, misery, trouble, afflicted, or affliction. It refers to the state of our oppression, extreme discomfort, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So when you think about this word depression, or affliction, which can be, again, physical, mental, or spiritual, the people were in this, they had this misery. We had this misery on us as a result of the actions of Egypt, of Mitzrayim. Egypt, right? So it caused us to kind of mentally be in this mental state of discomfort and oppression and depression. So um so when we think about what it is that the Most High did, he did more really than just coming in and physically taking us out, right? Because there was a mental thing that was connected to this. And you can also see with Israel the way that we were behaving in the wilderness, the way that we had this kind of this connectedness to Mitzrayim, and going back and saying like how we had all of this food that we ate when we was over there, and we missed the leeks and the garlic and all of this. They had all of these seemingly these things that were that they were missing from the oppression, which it kind of doesn't make any sense, right? But when you think about it in terms of this mental affliction, this mental depression, this misery that's going on internally, it makes perfect sense, right? When these people have this kind of connectedness to the oppressor. What's that? 26 verse. We're unpacking 26 verse 7. Okay, so that is the affliction. So again, the Most High looked on our affliction, right? And then, like that bird of prey, saw it from on high and then swooped down and engaged in our affliction, right? But not only that, but also this word here, this labor, amal, which is toil, wearing effort, worry. Worry, that's interesting. Worry. It's interesting when you think about this worry, right? So this is talking about toil. This word is translated as labor here. But I was just thinking about this, what's the scripture that talks about where I think it's Yeshua talking about the birds and all that. The Most High provides. We shouldn't be worrying about
itself and all that.
yeah. Is that Yeshua saying that?
Yeah.
Think not for what you want to eat or drink or whatever. Where's that? Somebody get that. Because I'm just putting that in this whole category of this kind of this internal thing that is connected to this oppression, right? Because when we look back and when we see, I think when we look back at Exodus and we see where it talks about how they it says in Exodus 1:10 where it says, "Come on, let us deal wisely with them." Deal wisely with them. These people who Mitzrayim who set over Israel taskmasters and afflicted us and the burdens. There was great thought put into breaking this people down, right? And we can look at what they did with Israel, with ancient Israel, and we can look and see what our affliction and bondage look like here in this land, where this thing is calculated, right? And it's more than just taking a person from one place and sitting them into another place. There's that mental aspect of it. There's that internal thing that's connected to it, where is your body and your mind down to your very soul is locked up, right? So we see this happening to Israel and the Most High again as we go into the land. He's saying, remember all of this, remember this, right? As you go in. In fact, don't even just remember it, but declare it. The affliction and the labor and the oppression. The oppression. This other word. Where these things are kind of overlapping, right? This one's distress, oppression, affliction. But I think it speaks to kind of the completeness of what was going on with Israel at the time, where they was totally just broke down, right? Which was the reason why they were crying out to the Most High in the first place. But again, we see in this verse where we cried out, the Most High heard our voice, and he took to action, and he looked on these things. He looked on our affliction, our labor, and our oppression, and he also leapt into action, right? And we see in verse 8 what he did, right? He brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, with great terribleness, and with signs and with wonders, right? So when we think about this whole idea of the Most High intervening into our individual situations, as a on a whole, we'll see this kind of culminated, come together when Yeshua returns and we go back to the land and sets up the kingdom and all like that, right? But from an individual standpoint, we witness the Most High's intervention into our situations, day to day, right? We have these things that we go through that when we experience different types of afflictions and oppressions and things on us, right? We should remember, as these people remembered when they went into the land. Let me see what's going on with this. Making some sounds over here.
How do I mute?
There you go. All right. Shabbat shalom to you. Haven't seen you guys over there in a while. Okay, so we, just like ancient Israel, right? We also have these things going on in our lives, affliction, oppression, right? Are we allowing the Most High to come in and bring us out of these things, or are we behaving in the way that our forefathers behaved and put more trust in our down pressers than that of the Most High, right? Because we saw what they did, right? We saw what ancient Israel did in the wilderness. They give us a good example of faithlessness, right? When they face adversities, where's the leaning, right? When you're facing adversities, where is the leaning? Do you lean towards those things which you can see, physical things, or do you lean towards the Most High, who, by the way, is in control of every and all things?
Is that real?
Right? So again, in this kind of high time, when we see people going into the land, bringing forth their first fruits, on the other side of this affliction and labor and oppression, the Most High is saying, remember these things, but again, don't only just remember, but even vocalize what it is the Most High has done for you and where he brought you from. Did you find that verse? What's this?
It says, this is Yeshua speaking. Excuse me. Matthew 6:25. Therefore I say unto you, take no thought of your life, what you shall eat, or what you shall drink, nor yet for your body, what you shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Verse 26. Behold, the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Yeah. How ye not much better than they?
Right. So that is dealing with how you are responding to these external things that are going on in your situation, right? Let me look at that verse so I can see that word. That was Matthew 6:25. Take no thought. Take no thought. Oh, wait. Let me see. It's not going to let me look at it in this version. Strong's. Let's see. It's not that word. It's this 3309 word. Yeah. It don't mean don't think about it, right? Because you got to think about it, right? But you can't have this anxiety about these things, right? You can't let your situations and your circumstances, you can't let how you are be dictated by your circumstances and your affliction or your oppression. Like, it's not even like I spilled some coffee or something, like, or I can't. It's like it's major stuff, right? Affliction, oppression.
It's like, how I'm gonna pay this bill?
Where the money coming from? You think about it, right? Maybe you strategize and see how you're gonna figure move this over to here. But the anxiety piece, right, is what Messiahs they're talking about, right? Don't be anxious about this thing. Which we can see kind of the reverse of that with Israel, with ancient Israel, right? We out here in the middle of nowhere. Where the water at? How we supposed to drink?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? We gonna die. We should have just not even left.
We was, yeah. Yep. And they wasn't even like hungry or thirsty. It's like they trying to look toward tomorrow.
Yeah, like, well, what we gonna do if I get thirsty?
Exactly.
Or if I get hungry, I ain't got nothing to eat here.
Right.
Yeah.
But back home, we had it all set our way.
Back home.
That was good.
Mm-hmm. You said it right too, because that's how they was talking. Like that was home.
Exactly. Which is crazy.
But in a way, they lost their faith.
Well, not in a way. They literally
He
did.
wasn't looking that he brought us this far.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to just leave us here unattended to and not taken, care of. And they just kept going back to where they came from, which to me was a horrible place. I'd have rather been in the wilderness with my father.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we say that now. We say that, but to a degree, we do the same thing.
Well, you saying here, right?
I'm saying right here in this place where we at right now.
Life as we know it.
I'm saying we sit up there and look back and be like, they sat up there and they walked with the Most High and all that, and they was literal slaves, like in chains, doing hard labor for no money, slaves, and they was looking back to that,
Like that was better.
like it was better. But I'm saying we look at them and we talk about them, about what they did.
But we still do the same.
We do the exact same thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And so again, when you're looking at these words, the mental aspect is part of it, right? It's part of the oppression, it's part of the affliction, it's part of the thing that we was rescued from. So when we think about what it is that Messiah has done for us, he done for us more so the internal part than the external part, because we ain't go nowhere. We still here in this land of bondage. We still in the land. But the internal part is a part that he done freed us from. But we still just dealing with our, what we could see. Right. So it's kind of like the reverse thing with the ancient Israel, where they was physically moved, but they didn't have that internal, they didn't manifest in their walk the internal redemption piece that happened. Where we haven't at this point had the physical redemption, more of an internal redemption, but we looking at where we're at and acting like we haven't been moved anywhere.
It's going to happen again with the second Exodus.
Which part?
You're saying that how after he got us into the wilderness, how a lot of our people were still thinking it was better to be back in Egypt and change.
You saying that part's gonna happen again?
I believe with the second gathering with some of our people, I don't think all of our people would think like that, but I think it's going to be a great majority that will. When it's time to go to the wilderness and whatnot, it's going to be a lot that's going to want to stay here.
To be comfortable.
I got a house, I got a boat, I own a couple cars, got all the bling, bling, bling. Even if we do get reparations, let's put it together and build America. Some of them was not going to want to leave this place, regardless of what happened to us. They're going to want to stay here.
That's right.
And some that get in the wilderness, they're going to complain too.
I think that I would say I believe in there being a second Exodus. The way that it was in the times of old is going to be again how it will be in the time to come. But what I would say is that just like here where we see where in verse 8 where it says y'all brought us out of Mizraim with a strong hand, with an outstretched arm, with great fear and signs and wonders. The thing that's different with how it would be when Messiah returns is that it talks about when Messiah returns, we're going to be changed to be like he is. So it's not going to be no wishy-washiness on the other side when Messiah comes.
Right.
So I think that's the difference, even because when we compare what went on with the so-called old covenant and what the new covenant is, right? The old covenant tells you what to do, right? It tells you everything you need to walk in righteousness. But there's a problem. We human beings in these carnal bodies, and our bodies are weak. We look at Hebrews. I think it's Hebrews chapter 8. I think. Let me see. Let me see if it's 8. Hebrews chapter 8, where it says 8 verse 7 and 8. For if the first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. Verse 8 is what I'm looking for finding fault with them. He said, behold, the days come, and he goes in and quotes the new covenant verse. But the fault with them is talking about what? Finding fault with them. Who's the them right there? That be Israel. The problem ain't with the covenant, is with the people and their inability to keep it.
Like just like when they was in the wilderness and he went up the mountain, Moses went up the mountain, came back down, and he already building his calf.
Right.
Why are you doing this when you just seen what he did for
you? You just heard his voice.
Just talk to you.
Yeah.
And you still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You still doing the same things that you was doing in Egypt. The same thing that you was doing to get you put in the bondage.
Yeah.
But I'm showing you the light and the way out, and I'm here with you. I called him up here to talk to him for a few minutes, and you already doing exactly what I told you not to do.
Mm-hmm.
But however, right before when I spoke to you, you told him to tell me that you'll do everything that I commanded you. And that's, you know what I mean? That's the same thing that we got going on now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We sit here as people and we're like, oh yeah, I love God and I'm gonna follow his ways and walk around with the Bible all the time. You don't open it, you don't read it, you don't take no time out of your day, you know what I mean, to just give him praise and glory for where you are in life. You know what I mean? Like I pray in the morning every day, you know what I mean? My biggest thing is thank you for being able to use these. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people take stuff like that for granted. There's people that don't have hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I what I mean? But it's little things like that that we need to be grateful for.
Yeah.
But you out here, when you do try to speak to him, you ask him for a new car. Or can I get a house? Can I hit the lottery? Let me get a new pair of shoes. You know what I mean? You're not thinking anything about salvation. You just worried about your physical. And he keeps telling you all throughout, don't worry about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, you need to be setting your goals for trying to get into the kingdom and try to get to the one of them mansions that my father got waiting for you.
Yeah.
But we can't see long term. We as a people only see short term.
Mm-hmm.
We only worry about the short term, which is our biggest problem. Which is why, like you said, the problem wasn't with my covenant, the problem with you.
Yeah. But I'm saying that just to say that in regards to Messiah returning and the total fulfillment of the new covenant is I'm not led. There's no fight anymore with this physical body where I'm changed to be like he is. When he returns, this thing, that new covenant is brought to its completion in terms of me being glorified and changed to be like he is. So that struggle that they had in the wilderness is done. Because you don't got this carnal body that's pulling at you, right? We might have the Ruach now, but even with the Ruach inside of us, we still got our carnal mind that's fighting against his mind and the spirit, right? But when he returns, then we don't have that. So I'm saying that there's that piece is going to be different when we're dealing with the second Exodus, because you know, what are you fighting against? Nothing. Your physical body is done. Now there may be, it talks about now there is two kinds of people now. It's going to be two kinds of people. Now the people who aren't changed when he returns could be on that what you was talking about in terms of this wishy-washiness. Should I cross over or not? So those people, but his people, that's already his people, we're not gonna be on that.
Now, to kind of tie into what we talking about, let's look at Ezekiel 20:35. And tell me your thoughts on that.
Hold on, let me pull it up over here. $35?
2035.
20:35, and I shall bring you into the wilderness of the peoples and shall enter into judgment with you face to face there, as I enter into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mitzrayim. So I shall oh, you said 35.
But if you keep going, keep going. Yeah, you can keep going down through 38.
As I entered into judgment with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mizraim, so I shall enter into judgment with you, declares the Master Yahweh. And I shall make you pass under the rod and shall bring you into the bond of covenant and purge the rebels from among you and those who transgress against me from the land where they sojourn. I bring them out, but they shall not come into the land of Israel and shall, that's good, and shall know that I am. So this I think confirms what I'm saying here, because when we think about Messiah returning, you know, if we talking about Messiah returning and having this rod to pass under, right? Enter and shall bring you into the bond of the covenant. When we think about the covenant, the finalization of what the new covenant is. Those that's able to pass under the rod, right, is the ones who've been changed. Those are the ones who have a relationship with Messiah already and have allowed his presence to transform their lives, and then to the point where he returns, where you get to the completeness of that. And then But then you got the transgressors who can't be. You're not gonna be. You can't be a follower of Messiah and be classified as a transgressor, right? That don't include you, right? So those are the ones who's not. Those are the ones who don't make it, right? Those are the ones who don't make it in. So yeah, that's a good verse there. Because when you think about when Messiah returns and when he returns to rule and reign in his kingdom, at that time his people ain't wishy-washy, right? There has been that purification in in the people, where now we could be a people and there be people inside the people who's not the people. You know what I mean? Where 20 no 30 35. Now you can have people who are walking around saying who they are and fit in the so-called classifications, and they got all of the criteria to be considered Israel. But when the Most High come through with his measuring rod, he gonna let it be known who's who. So in within the people at that time, you're not gonna have these imposters. They're gonna be taken away. Yeah, that was a good verse. Okay, what 26. So again, back to Deuteronomy, looking at this, bringing this up to our now situation. I'm saying that in Messiah, we should be able to not be one of the words here for affliction is depressed, right? If we walking around in depression in Messiah, we not allowing for Messiah to do what it is that he's supposed to have been done already in our lives, right? If we are allowing our these external forces that are against us to bring us to a place of defeat and depression in our minds, we are emulating our fathers in the wilderness, right? When we do that, we are forgetting, because again, those people literally were rescued by the Almighty. The same is true for you and I who follow after Yeshua, right? We have literally been rescued from affliction, toil, and oppression, right? So when we fall back into those things in our mind, right, we're emulating our fathers, and in this case, that's not a good thing, right? Okay, so let's keep on going here. Let's go down to, let's read, let's see what we want to read to. Let's read from verse let's start reading at verse 10 and go down to
All right. Yeah, school.
yeah, hold on a second. 14.
10 and 14.
Yeah.
And now, see, I have brought the first fruits of the land which you owe me. Then you shall place it before Yah your Elohim and bow down before Yah your Elohim, and shall rejoice in all the good which Yah your Elohim has given to you and your house, you and the Levites and the stranger who is among you. When you have completed tithing, all the tithe of your increase in the third year, which is the year of tithing, and you have given it to the Levites, to the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, and they have eaten within your gates and have been satisfied. Then you shall say before Yah your Elohim, I have put away the set apart portions from my house, and also have given it to the Levites, and to the stranger, and to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all your command which you have commanded me. I have not transgressed your commands, nor have I forgotten. I have not eaten any of it when in mourning, nor have I removed any of it for an unclean use, nor given any of it for the dead. I have obeyed the voice of Yah by Elohim. I have done according to all that you have commanded me.
Okay. So we hear these people on these TVs and in these places dealing with this sun worship, talking about these ties. Bring your ties up here, right?
Yeah.
But when we look at this right here, verse number 12,
Right.
this third year tithe that was brought. Now the preacher can try to put himself into this category here. He can sit up there and say, well, I'm the priest of this congregation. He could try to make that argument, right? But what about this stranger? What about this fatherless? What about this widow? How many times they guilting people into taking care of these people who not able to take care of themselves? Because they'll guilt you into bringing that money to them, right?
They will.
They'll do that with the quickness, right?
Yes, they will.
But what about this? What about these other categories of individuals here that where it's literally saying for you to bring up your this tithe, this third year tithe that you bring up, and to share it with all of these individuals here.
Right. That's a command too. They forget that one.
Well, I don't want to concentrate on them because we forget it too.
Yeah, well.
I want to bring them up. I definitely want to bring them up, but I don't want to stay there because we do the same thing.
What's that stranger mean?
The stranger that's in your gate. So if you got some non-Israelite person in the camp with you, you want to look at the word? Let's see.
H1616.
Ger.
A temporary inhabitant, a newcomer lacking inherited rights of foreigners in Israel, no conceded rights. Conceded rights? Yes.
Ger. Foreigner, alien, sojourner, stranger, all of that.
Like a tenant.
Yeah, it's kind of a non-specific term.
Mm-hmm. But it definitely isn't
a brew.
No. So they got the different classifications, right? You could have somebody who's coming, maybe he's a visitor, he's staying long and short term. Maybe he's somebody who owe you some money. You had some dealings with him on the outside and he couldn't pay it. So now he's your indentured servant for a while.
So portions of the tithe are supposed to go to the stranger.
Yeah, the people who don't have nothing for themselves. They with you because they can't pay you.
I can't afford to eat because I'm still working, pay you for what I do. So it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, he's a stranger in your land, take care of him. Like, it's not like how we were over here when they were like, we can care less if you eat or not. Right? You still gonna get up and work.
Well, they let us eat. It just was giving us trash.
Yeah. They let us eat because they needed work.
Just to keep us alive.
While they was eating high off the hog, we was eating low off. Yeah.
Yeah, right? The stuff they throw away. They guts. That's terrible, man. I don't think about it.
Yeah. So I'm saying that again, we're looking at this again. We don't have any priests to give our increase to, right? And even when you look, even having the priests in this category, when you look at these people within the category, is dealing with those who are dependent on others for their means, right? If the stranger don't got his own land, the Levite don't have his own land, right? Those that are fatherless, they're not connected to any particular group of family or whatever, right? The widow, if you're a widow, you don't have any you may not have any children to take care of you, right? You don't have a husband, right? So all of these people are people that are not able to provide for themselves, where they're kind of taken care of throughout because this is the third year tithe. Remember, it's not something that happened every year, but throughout the year, you wasn't taking all of your crops anyway, right? You was leaving it for them. If you went out and did all of your reaping, and then you forgot that you had this other corner over there that you was going to hit, but you didn't hit it, you're supposed to leave that there for the people who didn't have. So there was already built in measures inside of the Torah for these people who not able to take care of themselves. But then now this is over and above. And then this always also reminds me of Sukkot. Let's see. At Sukkot, Deuteronomy 16 and 13, which says, "Thou shalt observe the feast of tabernacles 7 days. After thou hast gathered in thy corn and thy wine, and thou shalt rejoice in thy feast, thou and thy son and thy daughter, and thy manservant and thy maidservant, and the Levite and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow that are in thy gates. Surely 7 days shall keep the solemn feast unto Yahweh the Elohim in the place that Yahweh shall choose, because Yahweh the Elohim shall bless thee in all thy increase and in all thy works of thine hands. Therefore thou shalt surely rejoice." Right? So you were supposed to rejoice, surely rejoice at that time, rejoice in the fruits of your labor. That's the feast of the ingathering. You was supposed to enjoy that, but you was enjoying it with all the people, including those people that wasn't able to, they didn't sow and reap on their own, right? They was pulled into the situation, the fatherless and the widow and the stranger, and that same people group that we have here. So again, looking at this, is bringing to my remembrance this necessity that the Most High has built into His Torah that we have to be mindful of, because we don't think about it, right? We think about our situation, we think about those people that's underneath our roof, but we don't think about now it's talking about within your gates, right? We don't have like a community, right? But you can look into the people that you physically touch, and some of them people fit into this category here that you don't really look out for like that. And I feel like this command is commanding you to look out for those people, whoever those may be, to a greater degree.
You saying those people in the category of keeping the commandments?
No. The category of these widows and these fatherless and these strangers, that are in your gates. So again, I'm saying that you don't have a camp, but I'm saying that
a gated off community.
You have people that you touch, that you look at, that that fit into this category, being a stranger, somebody who's on the outside, somebody who's not Israel, who you got dealings with, who is maybe in need of things
that you could provide. Are we talking, like, I remember because before we were talking about those we would consider brothers.
No, this ain't that. This is the stranger, right? This is somebody who's a stranger.
Completely.
You got dealings with this person, communications, even relationship wise, because he's in your gates. But he's not Israel though.
Gotcha. So I'll give you a scenario. Right? So a few days ago, I was in my house and it looked like a white person, but they could have. No, I was in my house, and what looked like a white person in the alleyway right by my
beside you,
right by my window, basically. They were crying, right? And I couldn't tell if it was a woman or a man. And I was like, maybe they just like a red bone, real light, you know what I'm saying? And so I brought out my camera because I thought first they was like, Shay. I thought, oh man, I got somebody on that K2. I was like, let me catch it. Brought out my camera, and I'm like, yeah. I was like, go ahead, start freaking out, right? And then I was like, and then I saw that they were like mourning, right? And so I was like, oh man, I put my camera away, and they wasn't going nowhere. They was just like, crying out right there. I said, let me go out there and see if they all right. So I went outside, and her mother had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell this is somebody that probably has some drug issues.
Yeah.
Some sexuality issues. They had braids, hair shaved off. It was a woman though. You know what I'm saying? And so I just talked to her for a bit, she wanted a hug, and you know what I'm saying? And then she went about her business, you know what I'm saying? And the crazy thing is, like, a friend of mine said, yeah, I seen her down in Warrenton. You know what I'm saying? He's like, you got to her? She talked to you and all that? I'm like, yeah. And he was like, man, she wouldn't say, she like ignored me. Like, I tried to comfort her. She ain't want me. She came outside my door. You know what I'm saying? And was crying. And I think that was a little bit of, test to see what I was going to do with that.
Played it.
You know what I'm saying?
No side, put her there.
Yeah.
See what you gonna do.
Yeah, see, I'm on that fence, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay,
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a perfect example of, extending that help towards those that, as far as the stranger is concerned, those that are not Israel, those that are not your brother, right? Those that are on the outside in terms of relationship. Because even though we had the commandment, like the Shabbat command that we see in Exodus, where it talks about, you keeping the Sabbath, your sons and your daughters and your maidservants and your manservants or what have you. Just because somebody's a stranger inside of your gates don't mean that they are a follower of the Most High. But they wasn't gonna have none of that stuff in your situation, but still not be a follower of the Almighty. Like, you could have a slave, servant or whatever, but he gonna keep Shabbat because he's in your spot. But it may not be like, kind of like when you think about how when you have these kind of rebellious teenagers. Let's talk about the rebellious teenagers, where you got Shabbat at your house. It's Shabbat. The rebellious teenager might be there, but they ain't really keeping Shabbat, right? They thinking about after, right? They doing their little things with their friends on the little texting about what they're gonna do whenever daddy lets me get out after Shabbat's over. That's funny. Yeah. I'm just saying, you don't have to be, you're not necessarily connected just because you were there. But you still was going to be in it if you're in the house. So I'm just saying that there's things where we can see where, and the stranger is a perfect example of that person who's not necessarily connected, but he's still gonna get the benefits, some benefits of being connected. He's still gonna have that kind of mercy kind of extended to them. And again, mercy don't have nothing to do with the receiver, right? It got to do with the person who's offering the mercy, right? It's not mercy if I look at you and I say, well, they deserve it, so I'm gonna give it to you. Like, it's not based on that. It's based on me just doing it based on me. So there don't have to be no connection there. So I'm saying all that just to say, yes, that stranger could be somebody who's not Israel. They don't believe in nothing. But there's somebody who you have potential dealings with, and you're able to help those persons.
Yeah, I got a stranger who is a widow that lived right across the street from me. Time to time, man, Chris, can you move this, move that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've known her since I was a child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that when we look at these at these things, me anyway, it causes me to think about the necessity that we see in Torah for the Most High's people to care for, to think about, to move into action towards these people who are not able to do things for themselves, fatherless, the widows, the strangers that are in our gates. And this again is a perfect example of this. And then we keep on going, just like we saw with the other verse where you had this declaration that you made with the other one, right? The same thing is here in verse 13, right? You not only have the thing, but you have this declaration, right? I have put away to set apart. This is what you say when you have this basket of things that you've brought for the Levite. I have put away the set apart portion from my house, and also have given it to the Levite and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow, according to all your command, which you have commanded. I have not transgressed your commandments, nor have I forgotten. Even when it got to the place where, so it says, I have not eaten of it when in mourning, nor have I removed any of it for any unclean use, nor given it to the dead. So even when you potentially might have needed this stuff, right? Like say I set aside this money over here that I'm gonna use for these purposes of helping some people.
Times get tough.
Yeah, and then I start looking over there like
It's right there.
Yeah.
Why am I struggling? I got it.
It's sitting right over there. Like, but when we look at this, right, you had this stuff, you store it up, things happen, you mourn, you had to go and and maybe even provide for these people who was mourning. These situations came up where you could have used this thing that you set aside for the widow or the stranger or the fatherless. But here it's saying you didn't ever touch that. You set it aside. You decided that you was going to do what the Most High said to do with it. And that's what it was. All the way up until you got to the point and used it. And then I was just thinking about like, so if you have a widow or a fatherless or a stranger in a situation, like you gonna go and make this declaration while you helping them out, or you just gonna help them out?
So make a declaration.
Yeah, that's what you did right here. When you brought the basket up, right? Verse 12, when you had completed the tithing, all the tithing your increase, the third year, which the year of tithing, and giving it to the Levite and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow, have eaten within their gates and been, then you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim, I have put away, then you say all this, I put this away from the portion of my house.
well, you got to put it away first. You don't say it before you do it. You
they ate it.
After you've already helped the stranger, or you gonna stand there and be like, okay, I've done this, like, or am I gonna wait till I get back home and be like, you know what? When I'm saying my prayers, like, look, Almighty, I've done this. I've done what you asked of me. I haven't forgot it. I did it. I don't know if too many people are standing right there for that person, because they're gonna be looking at you like, what's he doing? Thank you, but I don't think we asked him to come back and help next time because he went on something crazy. I think it's something that you would say in your head, or like I said, you know what I mean, when you say your prayers, you know what I mean. I've done this. I've done what you commanded me. I haven't forgotten it. I don't think that I'm just gonna stand there in front of somebody that just gave. You know what I mean? Like if I go to a shelter and I give them some stuff, you know what I mean? I don't think I'm gonna hand it over.
You're not gonna do the declaration when you do it?
I don't think I'm gonna say it out loud. Not on the spot right there. Nah, I can't.
We talking about now or back then?
No, I'm saying back then it seemed I'm saying within the confines of Israel. I'm saying then they probably made it. It's not weird. It's not strange.
It wasn't weird because that was their culture. Yeah.
But I'm saying us now doing it.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it today. You would just
So wait a minute. Ain't this talking about them going into the temple and doing the declaration? Not
they
on
bring it to the Levite and all that.
Right, that's what I'm saying. They go into the
but all of these people here, you bringing it not only to the Levite, but all like these people are present. These people are present. So the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow are all present. You're taking this stuff. You're basically bringing a feast and eating until you satisfy right there with these individuals, and with this tithe, this third year tithe.
Okay.
So these people are present when this happens, and y'all having a feast together. And then they had this declaration. So I'm just saying that now if we bringing this up to now, it would seem out of place because you will be dealing with these strangers who don't know anything, right?
That's what I said. Like you make the declaration and they go like, yeah.
It says you shall say before Yahweh your Elohim.
Correct. Which would make sense because, like I said, that's something I say in my prayer. Like,
yeah,
I did what I was commanded to do during this day that you gave me.
And then again, these are in our gates. It's talking about in our gates when we do this stuff. So it's like you do a drop off and roll. Hey, hey, I'm helping now.
Well,
bless y'all.
I think I'm out. I think that's a way. I think that's a way to do it. But I think that in the context of how they did it, it seems as if there's relationship is involved, as where it's not just kind of like a. I'm saying if we're gonna bring what they're doing up to now, I think that there's a relationship involved in it. Is a part that we,
like people that we actually interact with.
I think to me, I feel like the people within your gates part of it is it brings it into kind of people that you have a relationship with, where it's not like just a random, like you go to like an old folks home and find some random widow in the old people home and help them out, but like it's a relationship that you have with these individuals, these fatherless people and the strangers,
like your neighbors,
like the person across the street. Yeah, yeah.
But wait a minute. So, but what if? I mean, you might not know all the fatherless, all the widows necessarily.
No. I'm not saying all of the fatherless.
But it would have to be somebody that you interact with.
I'm saying the way that you take this verse and bring it up to now, again, you don't have nothing in your gates. You don't got nobody in your gates.
Right.
But when it says that, it caused me to think about people who I deal with, where it seems like I could think about all the people that I know, and I could find people that I know already that are in these category of people that I don't necessarily deal with all like that, where it seems like I should be.
See, but then also if you bring it up to now, you also got to take into consideration a lot of the fatherless or widow are taken care of with subsidies. So it's not the same as back then where like they didn't have food stamps. They didn't have, those type of programs. You know what I mean? So it's like the way the system is set up here in this land is already set up to take care of it.
I mean, I think you could look at it like that, but I feel like that's really just an excuse not to do anything.
No.
I mean, you can look at it like that, like the government taking care of it. What I gotta do it for? Like,
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that's a difference in what our forefathers situation was and what our situation is now.
But to me, I know what you're saying, but that's not enough. I could think right now about people that I know of, and they get this little bit of money they got to last them all month. Yeah, they get some money that got to last them all month. But it's like I think about what some of these people live on, and I can't fathom it. Like I can't even understand how that even works. Like how you stretch that little bit of stuff out a whole month long.
Either buy your medicine and don't eat. Or
That's because you
eat,
balling, man.
don't
When you
have no
balling,
life.
yeah, it's hard to understand.
There you go.
I had a conversation with,
Oh my
with
goodness.
a coworker because like we worked together at a previous job and we made way less than what we're making now. So you know what I mean? He was like, "Well, what happens if XYZ happens?" I'm like, "You gotta remember, we came from doing ABC before we were where we are now. Like, so I understand how what I have to do. You know what I mean? I don't want to go back to it, but I've survived that way. You know what I mean? So it's not like it's not possible. I get it. But once you come into a different income situation, now you're like, oh, you know what I mean? You can't forget to look back to see where you came from and get you to where you are now. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I talk to customers all the time. They're like, well, I'm only living off of this. And I'm like, yeah, I did it with a 4-family household. You know what I mean? Like living off the same thing. And you telling me that there's only 2 of y'all. I'm looking at you like, well, why you make that work?
I mean, I
You need
could
to be making that work because it's not like it's not possible, but a lot of people in those situations begin to live above their means. You know what I mean? So now you're stretching because you decided that I need to have this when that's really not a necessity.
Trying to buy J's and all
Yeah,
that,
like,
you know.
But see, the thing is that again, when we look at this and what's going on, again, when we're looking at this, the thing that we see happening is chesed, is loving kindness, where it's not something that's reactional. So I'm not looking at you and figuring out what your level of deservedness is and then helping you based on that.
Gotcha.
I'm looking at you and I'm saying, this don't got nothing to do with them, really. I did most high, I kept your commandment.
You told me to do this, I did it.
That's it. It don't matter what level of strangeness or fatherlessness or whatever have you. It don't that you not looking at that. You looking at what the Most High have for you to do, which here is exhibit that loving kindness towards those who not able necessarily. I think about living on a little bit of money, right? Just because you eat every day. We ain't talk about what it is that you ate. You know what I mean? If I could go to the store and get a 12 pack of oodles or noodles or something, you know what I mean? And whatever I need to some frozen vegetables or something to mix into those oodles and noodles. Right? I might be eating every day, but what am I eating?
You eating the bread baked with the dung?
You
know what I'm talking about?
I'll just
Zachariah.
What you talking about?
Where he told where the Most High told him to bake the cakes
yeah.
with his dung.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, you eat it, but what's the quality like? You know what I mean? I think that again, we're not doing this the exact thing here, but the spirit of this, I'm saying, is that there's people that that you could fit into these categories who you're able to help and you don't necessarily. But you should, it seems, if we want to get to the spirit of these commands here. And again, all of these don't have to be like the strangers there, but you know, all of them ain't strangers, right? Some of them actually could fit in the category of Israel now, right?
I don't know. Let me read this real quick. You don't mind.
What is that?
Ecclesiastes, Cuss, and Apocrypha, chapter 12.
Yeah.
I'll read it. It says, "When thou do good, know to whom thou doest it, so shalt thou be thanked for thy benefits. Do good to the godly man, and thou shalt find a recompense. And if not from him, yet from the Most High. There can no good come to him that is always occupied in evil, nor to him that giveth no alms. Give to the godly man, and help not the sinner. Do well unto him that is lowly, but give not to the ungodly. Hold back thy bread, and give it not unto him, lest he overmaster thee thereby. For else thou shalt receive twice as much evil for all the good thou shalt have done unto him. For the Most High hateth sinners, and will repay vengeance unto the ungodly, and keepeth them against the mighty day of their punishment. Give unto the good, and help not the sinner." I ended up verse 7.
Mm-hmm. So you say what to that then?
I mean, I'm trying to just follow you know your line. I mean, it's like in regard to what they're doing. I mean, I guess you would qualify who you give and who you would give.
Well,
to. It's like,
I don't. When I say that, I'm saying that basically in not in regards to necessarily. I see somebody who's out on the corner doing some wickedness or something like that. I'm saying the reasoning. I'm saying the reasoning behind the giving is not based on somebody's deservedness. Is all I'm saying. If somebody needs something, and again, you talking about, I'm putting it in the context of relationship, but just this a random person, which is different from just going down somewhere and like how we just was randomly going around giving people stuff. I'm saying like in terms of people in your circumference of people that you know and deal with that you could fit into this situation, you know, will be people who you could be kind of contextualizing this command by helping those individuals, not based on because again, the stranger is not necessarily somebody who's walking in righteousness. And that's just to say, from an internal perspective, they're there in your gates and they're doing the things that you say is going to happen in your gates. But just because they're there don't mean that they're there. Their heart ain't there. Right? So it don't make you righteous just because. So what I'm saying is that this stranger opens it up to somebody who's not necessarily somebody who's walking in righteousness. That could be just somebody who's just kind of you know, they're being succumbed to righteousness because they're under your care. But that's not to say that you know, you just go and I'm not saying that you go and reward wickedness. I'm not saying that. But at the same time, I'm saying that this thing is not kind of a conditional kind of a thing where it doesn't put a qualifier on the stranger or the fatherless or the widow. Because, you know, when you think about how you even just begin to deal with people. You know,
Well,
the way that you could even begin to have a relationship with an individual might just be by a kind deed that you do towards somebody. Could be a way that you even start to have a relationship with somebody. I could potentially go and find the most wickedest person in the world and start dealing with that person in their wickedness. And because of the righteousness that I bring to the situation, bring them over into the other side. So I can't necessarily say that I'm just going to just disregard somebody just based on their wickedness, because potentially I can overcome that darkness with light. But I'm not gonna be like a what's it called, a enabler for some wicked person. I'm not gonna sit up here and your supply your wickedness, right? But you being wicked is not going to automatically exclude you from receiving some physical uh, blessing from me necessarily. Just that in and of itself. I mean, if that's the case, what's the point of even? Because if you go and say, well, I'm gonna go out here and deal with these people and bring them into the truth, you already, that person's wicked. They need to be brought into the truth. So so I'm not going to deal with them, because I got to deal with you at some point. I got to deal with some wickedness.
To feed you some type of knowledge of righteousness.
I got to bring you over somehow. You're not coming righteous. You wicked at first. Somebody, you got to go over. You got to go over to the other side at some point. I don't know if that brings any clarity or anything to it. But I mean, by all means, I'm not saying that you be like I'm not gonna sit up here and try to reward wickedness. And even still, when you think about this in terms of these people inside of your gates, it's relationships involved in it. You know what I mean? The more you interact with people, the more those relationships grow. And that's how people get to changing in the first place. I could go and just drop something here and there, whether it be food or knowledge, right? I can drop it here and there, but if I'm forming a relationship with you and I'm caring about what's going on in your life, in your situation, right? That changes it.
But then, so then there, that makes it still like a qualifier. Then.
Well, it's
That's
not
still a level of qualification. Where are you at within my gates? Do I know you? Yes or no? To know, because it ain't random. For instance, how we reading this here.
That's not random.
During in Israel, anybody that was within our gates or all of Israel.
The qualifier was inside of the gates. That's correct.
Right. So,
but we just don't have that
and then,
situation.
like you said, you extended to today. I know you and the people who. I mean, first we'd extend out, like you said, personal relationships. Mm-hmm. You know them, and so it's still a qualifier.
There is a slight qualifier, yes. But I'm saying within the qualifier, I'm saying that I might know you being a qualifier, but I'm not going to say, well, this person, all you do is sit up here and do X, Y, Z, so I ain't trying
to. Let me give you another story.
Yeah.
Quickly. So in Guyana, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was British Guyana. They had slaves, right? So the slaves fought the British and won their independence. But there still was some kind of British rule. So the blacks were no longer slaves anymore, right? So they were like citizens of British Guyana. And so the British had a problem getting people to do like the dirty jobs. The blacks didn't want to clean off the sewers no more. They didn't want to deal with the trash or none of that stuff, right? So all of them kind of jobs, they brought in indentured servants from the low caste in India. Y'all know about the caste system in India, right? So they brought in Indians to be indentured servants to do trash, clean the sewers, all the dirty stuff. So they had a name for these Indians. They were called coolie men, right? So that's like a derogatory, that's like nigger for Indians. You call them a coolie man, right? And so once the British ultimately left Guyana and let the blacks control the country, right? There was a black president. British are out. Now it's just Guyana, right? So the Indians were still there that were in indentured servants. So that's how it was remained. They remained the indentured servants. Blacks ran everything. They had all the good jobs, doctors, owned all the restaurant, everything, right? So the Indians start speaking out. They start saying, this is not right. Y'all treat us like dirt. Y'all, we don't have no good job. We have no way of, educating ourselves or becoming, better. And so the black president said, you know what? You're right. We're going to make one Guyana. We're going to make everybody equal. So we're now going to allow the Indians to get in all of the schools, all the universities, become equal. The Indians got introduced into everything. They learned the trades, learned everything. The Indians went into this new opportunity with the singular mindset. We will never forget what the blacks did to us.
Yeah.
Right? And it wasn't even the blacks that did it to them. It was the British. Yeah. The British brought them in as indentured servants. But they said, we will never forget. So maybe it was the blacks who came up with the name Coolie Man. Maybe it was the blacks who, was looking down on them while they was in the gutters and cleaning the trash and stuff. So they was like, we're never going to forget how they treated us. The Indians were educated by the blacks and took over Guyana. And now the blacks are cleaning the gutters. The blacks ain't got the restaurants. Because they showed this to the stranger, and the stranger overtook him. And now is doing, what is it? What did it say? Double evil or double?
Yeah. What I just read?
Yeah, it said double. They do double. Well, it might not be double, but it meant like more wickedness than towards you than they were twice as much. Yeah.
Lest he overmastered their battle, for else thou shalt receive.
Well, I mean, the only thing that I would say is that first of all, you looking at the results of people who's not walking in the Torah. First of all,
yeah, neither one was.
But I think that it's easy for us to find ways to not to not do.
So he's like, y'all find all these excuses, man. Just give.
No, we can find ways to because at the end of the day, it's about exhibiting a particular character, which here is mercy towards those that aren't able to provide for themselves. Right. You got to figure out. You figure out within yourself how you gonna qualify that widow and that stranger and that fatherless person. You do that. But it should be done.
Make no mistake about it. I want to do that. It's something that's in my heart to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's in my heart to do that, but I see that other side. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I see.
You can't be, and again, you can't be someone who is kind of rewarding wickedness. That doesn't make any sense to try to justify that. I'm not justifying that. All I'm saying is that when you look at that stranger in your gates, it's not always going to be somebody who's walking in righteousness. That's why I brought up the rebellious teenager, because they're just somebody who's there because they gotta be there. It's not in their heart. So relationship with the Father is not always going to be something that's present in that stranger. But again, this is something that we're looking at, and we're seeing how we're able to bring these things up to now. You figure out how you gonna make this something that's operating in your situation. But the thing that needs to happen is that it should be operating. You figure out who these people are in your life, and do what you feel led to do.
Mm-hmm.
But what you can't do is do nothing. And you can get to the place where you want to sit up here and find some criteria that people's not even able to, nobody's able to reach.
A loophole to where I tried. I thought about it.
Yeah.
And nobody fits XYZ.
Yeah.
I just decided to go back home.
Okay, let's read down some further here. I wanted to look at a few more of these verses in this chapter. Let's read from what we read down 14 before, read 15 to the end.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
What the story that he just shared with us, I think that's one of the reasons why all the nations is doing everything they can to keep us down. Because they're thinking that we're thinking the same way these Indians are. When we get back on top, the Most High put us back where we're supposed to be. Those people who's above us, they're thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Let them niggas get back on top. They're gonna do to us what we did to them.
Mm-hmm.
So those people right now today, they feel the same way.
Yeah. But that's wicked though.
It is wicked.
That's that thought process. We talked about this last week. That thought process is wicked. When you look at Mitzrayim, you look at Egypt, they was looking at what potentially might happen if these people keep on growing.
Yeah.
And they was thinking the way they think, they're going to keep on multiplying, and then they're going to turn against us.
That's the same thing.
If you're wicked people, that's how you think.
Yeah.
But if you ain't wicked, that's not on you.
It's the last thought on my mind.
I don't care what you doing over there. I ain't trying to fight with you. I'm just trying to do me.
Trying to survive.
Yeah, and that thought process is the same identical American thought process.
Yeah.
That's wicked.
Yeah, they said that, man, we got to do something about these African Americans, because
They keep on multiplying.
Yeah, they keep multiplying.
Let's start killing the men.
Yeah. Let's start
breaking down the
abortion.
family structure.
Planned Parenthood.
They gotta go somehow, some way.
Yeah.
More education. They can't.
So the common denominator here is that wickedness being the thing that's pushing you forward. If you operating in righteousness, that's not the thought process.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's read again now. Verse 15 down to the end.
That was the end.
Yeah, I think so. I'll stop you.
Look from your set apart dwelling place, from the heavens, and bless your people Israel and the land which you have given us, as you swore to our fathers, a land flowing with milk and honey. Today, Yah your Elohim is commanding you to do these laws and right rulings. If you shall guard and do them with all your heart and with all your being, you have today caused Yah to proclaim to you, be your Elohim, and to walk in his ways and guard his laws and his commands and his right rulings, and to obey his voice. And Yah has caused you to proclaim today to be his people, a treasured possession, as he has spoken to you, and to guard all his commands, so as to set you high above all nations, which he has made for a praise and for a name and for esteem and for you to be set apart people to Yah, your Elohim, as he has spoken.
Okay,
Hallelujah.
so
I got goosebumps reading that part.
I can tell.
okay, so the interesting thing here that we see here that I thought was interesting is when we see the carrying out of this commandment, when we see the carrying out of these commands, look how it reads here. It says, "You have today declared Yahweh to be your Elohim." Right after you did all of those things that you did it, and then you also proclaimed that you have done it. But the action of you doing it, along with you doing it, proclaimed Yahweh to be your Elohim. So in other words, when we walk out the commands of Yahweh, when we walk out his commandments, we're proclaiming him to be our Elohim. Right? The way that we proclaim Yahweh to be our Elohim is actually to walk in his ways and guard his laws and his commands and his right rulings and obeying his voice. Right? You walking it out.
Walking it out.
You doing these things, not just you knowing about these things. Like you could have known about these things that it talked about, this third year tithe thing. You could have known about it, right? But when you went ahead and did the thing, when you held on to that thing and saved it up for this time, and then went ahead and did the thing, and then declared it, by you doing all of that, declared Yahweh, you was declaring Yahweh to be your Elohim while you was doing it. And then the same thing is true on the other end in terms of the Most High. Yahweh has today declared you to be his people, a treasured possession,
right,
as he promised you, that you should keep his commandments. So you're declaring Yahweh to be your Elohim when you walk out his commands, and he's also proclaiming you to be his people
right,
when you walk out his commands.
through the action. That's right.
Right, and that goes all the way back to the beginning when we talked about that first proclamation that was made in terms of Yahweh hearing you proclaiming the fact that Yahweh heard your cry and he saw your toil and oppression and affliction, where he heard you and then he acted. He saw you, what you was in, and then he acted. Right, the same thing, we could say the same thing in regards to, we found out about these commands, these right rulings, these laws that the Most High has for his people, and then we obeyed those things. We walked those things out. Right, the connection is made through action. Right, your relationship with the Father, his relationship with you is proclaimed by action, by you walking out these things, by you taking this relationship that's an internal thing and allowing that thing to manifest. Right? If there's no manifestation of this change to happen inside of you internally, if there's no manifestation, it's not real. It's not real. If the Most High in you is not changing you, if it's not causing you to walk in righteousness, it's not real. He's not really your Elohim.
That's right.
Right? You see that he's your Elohim by you walking in his ways. And you're proclaiming him, and he is proclaiming you in your doing of his laws, statutes, and commandments. God.
You know what? You're exactly right. Because when I was asked about my fringes and my tootsies hanging from my, my four corner, and I explained to them, I said, that's a symbol that reminds me of the covenant that my ancestors broke. I said, a covenant that I wish not to break again. I said, it reminds me to walk in his ways and his laws. I said, that's what it's for. I said, it's not a fashion statement. It's much more than that. I said, and everybody can't wear them. Because, like you said, we proclaim him to be our Elohim as he proclaimed us to be his chosen when we walk according to his laws and commandments. The actions can be seen when the New Testament, Yeshua told us to be ye transformed by the renewing of our mind. Everybody's not doing that. They pay lip service, just as the new scriptures in the New Testament tells us, but they're not honoring him with their heart and their mind, just with their lips to be seen by others. So every time I look at my fringes, I think about stuff like that. It does. It reminds me of who I am. It reminds me of who my Elohim is. And it also reminds me what I'm supposed to do. So that's what I explained to them.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it was meant for, is to do that. But again, now, we also have, so again, that's an external thing, right? That's an external thing. You look outside of yourself and see this thing that you made for yourself, fringes to put on the borders of your clothes. You did that yourself, right? And when you look at that external thing, it causes you to think about the commandments, right? But moreover, we had the Ruach HaKodesh.
That's
right. Moreover, we have the spirit of Yahweh living on the inside of us, which is that thing that renews our mind. Right. The renewal of our mind don't come from it don't come from it's not like information. Right. It's not like going to school and taking a test. Right. The Ruach HaKodesh is literally changing you on the inside out.
You know what? I'm going to say, respond to that. One sister from Facebook, Dr. Janet, asked me to join her live thing, and I went on there. I was talking, and a brother was telling me, "Oh, the Ruach is this, the Ruach is that." It just hit me, and I said, that's the problem with most of us when we operate without the Ruach leading us. We have a tendency of leaning on our own understandings, which causes us to fall in error by what we consider false or true. So we must operate with the Ruach. He's already within us, and then most people don't tap into that source that's already within them. They neglect it. But they must understand, man, the Ruach will show you everything you need to know. You have to allow him to guide you. Allow him to set you on the path of knowing what you need to know. Because without him, you're going to be leaning on your own understanding.
Yeah. I mean, that's the difference, right? When we think about the so-called Old Testament and the so-called New Testament, the Old Covenant, the covenant that was made at Sinai. When we think about the Old Covenant and the New Covenant, the difference is one is external and the other one is internal.
Right.
It's still the same thing.
It's kind of the same, but it's kind of different, right? The difference is that the Old Covenant, caused it was dependent on your own strength to do the commandments. I'm able to look over there and mentally know what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. but there's no unctioning. There's no internal unctioning that's strengthening me or empowering me to do it.
Right.
That's why one is greater than the other.
Greater.
That's why one is above the other, because the other one depends on your own strength.
Right.
Where the new covenant supplies you with the strength. The new covenant changes you from the inside. The new covenant writes these laws on your hearts instead of just having them on tablets of stones, external, that I'm looking somewhere outside of myself in order to know what I'm supposed to be doing, as opposed to this new thing that happens where the motivator is from within my changed heart. Yeah.
You know what? As you know, I'm in school and stuff. So I was in class and they wanted me to do a presentation about animals, my favorite animals. So I picked the lion, right? The spirit lion. And
Yeah.
You just started.
I pushed
it was an older woman, Tone. It was an older woman. She was so old, you know, and she was asking me about the kufi I'm wearing and asking me about the fringes and why I'm so quiet. I seem so humble, you know, and she was like, "What are you writing about?" So I told her, and she said, "Well, you know what?" She said, I'm not Jewish, I'm a Negro." You know, and I was explaining this to Melissa because it saddened me. It made me cry. And I looked her in her aging face and I said, "They lied to us. They taught you to believe you are Gentile." I said, "Yet, read your Bible and you will see what I'm trying to reveal to you is the biggest conspiracy the world has ever committed." I said, "Do you know why we are in the conditions we're in today?" She said, "Because the Caucasians hate us." I said, "You're correct. However, it's much bigger than that." Then I told her with patience and compassion, I did as I do for my people. You know, I even shed tears while explaining to her. And she asked me, why was I crying? I had to think about that for a moment. Why was I crying? Because I didn't realize until she said it. So this is how I know I was being led by the Ruach, because I had compassion, total compassion and love for her to know what I'm knowing. And when she asked me this, I said, there are tears of pain and joy at the same time. She said, how is that? I told her, because it pains me to see the result of the Caucasian man's deception. I said, but it brings me joy to know that Yah, who you call God, guides me to show you things that you have no idea of. She said, what do you want me to do? What should I read? You know? And you know, that made my day. I went all in, you know, explained myself and everything with no distractions, took my time, gave her some stuff, printed some stuff out for her to read. And she noticed that I call Melissa Wisdom with a Y. And she was like, that's so beautiful. You know, she said, you are amazing. I said, no, sister. I said, y'all's amazing. I said, y'all's amazing. Don't ever look at a man like that. I said, that was the problem what you did in your church. I said, you set that man on the pedestal. I said, but this truth I'm going to give you, you will never get in church. I said, so take it and run with it and keep it to your heart. And she was really interested because she seemed like she's at that age to, you know, where normally people be set in their ways. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear that. They don't want. But she told me what interested her was my actions. You know, so that was the Ruach showing me, in other words, continue to do what you do. People are looking at you. You know, you representing me now. The other day when a guy was in a bad car accident, and I noticed that he asked Melissa to pray for him. And she told him, you want me to pray for you now, but I warned you about a month ago what I saw about you being held by silver metal pieces to keep your body together. And that's exactly what he said. Me and my wife got jacked up and twisted. She said, but I will pray for you. She said, well, from here on out, you must know that your life no longer belongs to Yah. So you must live it to the fullest. You know, so when we go through those experiences, myself, at some point we got to realize that our life is not our own. You know, that we're supposed to live according to his will and purpose. For our purpose is to shed light, and as Yeshua say, the Great Commission, to share his truth among all the world, all the nations. You know, you can only do that by being led by the Ruach.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, that's when you look at this chapter that we just looked at, and kind of the conclusion of the chapter, when you see, and just like Dason was saying, you know, we know, the Father knows that we are his, that he is ours, by us being obedient to that spirit that he puts on the inside of us, by us walking in obedience, by doing, he said, be you holy like I am holy. You be the thing that sets you apart, the thing that makes you act and function the way that I act and function, is by you manifesting this holiness, right? Just like he heard Israel's cry and responded, just like he saw what was going on with Israel and he responded to it, right? It's the action. There must be action. I want to look at this real quick before we be done with this here. Look over and let me make this, share this screen here. Isaiah chapter 60. If I can find my cursor. Oh, here it is. Let's see how far we're gonna read. Just read the first 3 verses there. Oh, that's it.
Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the esteem of Yah has risen upon you. For look, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness the people. But Yah arise over you, and his esteem is seen upon you. And the nations shall come to your light, and serve unto the brightness of your rising.
Okay, so you know, when we look at this is kind of going along with what we're talking about here, in terms of the spirit of Yahweh actually being manifest in your life, right? The way that you're able to even affect others, even bring others into the light, is by being a light, by allowing that which Messiah has put in you to be manifest, right? You can say whatever you want to say, but unless that is manifest through you, all you doing is saying stuff. Right. If I'm able to not only hear you talk about all the things that you talk about, but then also see your actions and they are congruent with one another, if the things that you say go along with the things that you do, right? That is how you are able to shine, as is talking about here, right? In this place, right? We in this place that is actually covered with darkness. Right? We literally live in the place that's literally covered with darkness, right? Covered with darkness. We look around and is darkness all around. But Yahweh arises over you, and his esteem is seen in you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? His what's that? That's probably kavod. Let me see, is it? Glory, yeah. Esteem, kavod, yeah. His light, his weight. What's this? You trying to say something on there?
For me,
Yeah.
yeah, I was trying to say. It's funny you guys are talking about being action, like you're being people of action, and me and the children we've been reading Nehemiah, and it's to a point where Nehemiah is he's on his way back to Jerusalem to build the wall,
Mm.
where it's we're talking about how we have to take action. We can't we see, you know, we see our walls are broken down. We have to be we have to be able to take action, not just sit around and cry, woe is me. We have to be able to get up and do something and take action and getting things done and allowing the Most High to do the work that needs to be done. And as we can't just be like trend followers or something and being led by our emotions, but also, allow our just being people of action is what we're talking about, what we've been talking about for the last 3 days. So I thought that was pretty interesting that this is what Midrash is about today.
Yeah. Yeah, because if there ain't no movement, then you dead, right?
Exactly.
I know if you dead or not. If I lift your arm up and then it stay up, there's movement, you alive.
Right. Then we were talking about how the world came to be and how, with the Big Bang Theory and everything, they say it came out of nowhere. Well, if it came out of nowhere, that doesn't make any sense because you can't get nothing from nothing. It had to come from something. It had to be some type of movement. There always has to be movement in order for things to happen. Even the earth coming into existence, Yahuwah had to move, right? He had to say something or do something. It's always movement.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if we look at these things I'm thinking about like atoms and stuff, and molecules and all that junk. That stuff is moving.
Always. I was thinking about the other day. It was like I had some talk with some brothers, and I'm like, nothing's solid. Nothing is really solid. Everything is made up of atoms, and atoms are always moving. The electrons, and so it's like, and that's the spirit, like on the Most High, like to put all that stuff forward. When he said, when he pushed all this stuff to go, and ever since then, everything's been moving. It's always something moving or being put together. So yeah.
That's why if you ain't moving, you feel like you're falling behind. Like if you ain't doing something, it's like you just feel like you just
dying.
Yeah.
So death.
Yeah.
Gotta move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta move.
Action. Yep. Right? Manifestation.
This goes into, I'll read it real quick.
Go ahead.
James, real quick, James chapter 1. Everybody should know this. And it says, I'm going to start at 21. It says, therefore put away all filthiness and overflow of evil, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your lives. And become doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving yourself. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you ain't doing nothing, you deceiving yourself by just
if all you're doing is hearing.
Because it's action. The book is about action. So if you ain't doing it, you deceiving yourself by just saying it and not showing forth.
Yeah, I mean, because you creating inside of yourself a false sense of security. if all you doing is hearing? If there's no manifestation, we looked at them other verses, you verified that the Most High is your Elohim by doing what he said. And he affirmed that you're his people by doing what he said.
That's right.
Not just hearing about it. There must be action. There must be action. There must be a manifestation. How can you just be light moves? Right? Light moves.
I don't know how to work this thing.
What are you trying to do?
Oh, I don't know how to work it when I'm speaking or when it's not. But being able to be being a person of action or take action, you also have to be able to look at facts. We were saying that too. Like you have to be able to sit back and assess the situation and look at all of the facts. Because if you can't look at facts, you're deceiving yourself. Also, you have to be able. Sometimes we talk about how trends happen. Like we'll see people being shot or something in the streets or something, and we'll rise up and we'll be angry about it, and then it dies down, and then nothing happens because we deceive ourselves into thinking that everything is okay. Well, somebody else will do it; it'll get done. We have to be able to look at facts in order to take action.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think about things like that, it's kind of like the society and media. It rules you. It controls you. It tells you what you're supposed to be worked up about, when you're supposed to actually manifest. Yeah, it tells you what to care about, when you're supposed to care about it, how you post. Yeah, how long, all that. The media controls you. It tells you those things that are important and that ain't important. And then we just go along and just follow right along with it. When you think about these I mean, you talking about trends, that's the epitome of it right there. When we sit up here and look at these things and how people react, and they get all up in arms about one thing, and the exact same thing happened somewhere else, and it's not even a thought. Like, there's but so in terms of being this light, we have to not again looking at those type of things. You talk about trends, that's being motivated by some external force. We're talking about being motivated by this internal force that is Messiah inside of us, and Messiah in us being that motivating factor in our lives, and the light that we're shining is us manifesting him, right? And that being the thing that's dictating our actions and the things that we do. And when we look at this Isaiah chapter 60 verse 1, we're talking about arise and shine, for the light is come and the glory of Yahweh is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and the gross darkness the people, but Yahweh shall arise upon thee, and his glory, his esteem, his his weighty illumination, his presence shall be seen upon you. But that's only through manifestation. It's only through action. It's only through us allowing that spirit to work inside of us and move into action. It's only from us not only hearing what it is that we're supposed to be doing, not only hearing and knowing what the Most High calls good and righteous, but walking those things out.
I go to where he said, my sheep know if they can hear my voice, and they come because, she just mentioned the media. Those people who are reacting to media all up and that's their guide. That's what they hearken into. You know what I'm saying?
And something lives for a little while and just dies out. It wasn't that. It couldn't have been that serious if it just lives for a little while and it just dies. But that's what happens, though, right?
Right. And if we live by his voice, one, you ain't easily swayed. You gonna look into everything. Or be, kind of on a level to be like, oh, okay, this everything. Because the book speak about everything that we see. Yeah. So it's like,
yeah,
be easily swayed by everything.
Right. Which again, it goes back to the other piece we was dealing with in terms of, allowing these things that cause us to go into like distress and anxiety, because of this. Like it says right here, we live in this world that's covered with darkness.
Yeah.
But we're the light. We're the light. So it don't matter if it's dark out if I'm the light. Right? I got the light walking with me. So I can walk around in this darkness and not worry about sitting up here bumping and tripping like over all of this stuff. Yeah.
That's right. I tell them, if you think it's bad now, wait till you wake up. Then you really see what it is.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends on your your perspective.
Yeah, the Ruach will show you.
All right, so that being said, is there any what time is it? Is there any
it's almost 4 o'clock. It's 3:54.
Anything that anybody wants to get off of their chest before we go ahead and be done with this for today?
Of course I do. And it is. Action speaks louder than words. Practice what you preach. Because we must understand that when we sit ourselves on a platform and call ourselves sharing y'all's word, and people take heed to it, they're going to be looking at our actions, not only to find fault in you, but to see if you're very sincere in your walking. Like I told Tony, my brother asked me to baptize him. I never got that request from nobody before, so I really don't know how to do it. So I will pray about it and look further into it. But I said, why do you want me to baptize you? And what he said to me, it didn't really shock me, but it motivated me, so to speak. He said, I see the change in you. He said, I know the darkness you went through. He said, Dre, if you could change, anybody can change. I said, I've been saying that for a long time. I said, but you know what, bro? My action speaks louder than words, which I learned a long time ago. Because when I was steady trying to share the word with people and my actions did not align up with it, they didn't really want to hear what I had to say. A few did, because I used to tell them, don't do what I do as I say, and just listen and research yourself. But I know when you line it up with action, it speaks much louder than words. So the point of this is you must have a manifestation of the Ruach to operate in showing that you are chosen of Yah. And then Yah is your Elohim. When people see this, it provokes an interest. What is this he really into? And then when we show them with a sincere heart, but we got to be careful though. We also got to demonstrate to them, do not confuse us with those who talk about hate. I get that quite a lot. Are you like those brothers that stand on the corner and say we're going to hell? I'm like, no, I'm not. I said, no. They're like, good, because I can listen to you, because I can't never get nothing into them. So I know I have to be patient as well, because the Ruach tells me to do that. Show compassion. Be patient. Rome wasn't built in a day. Your house wasn't built in a day. And receiving this truth is not going to happen overnight. It's a hard pill to swallow for many. It was for me many, many, many years ago. So I understand, like you said earlier, we must remember that we were not always like this ourselves, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
We must remember that you cannot beat somebody in the head and expect them to wake up to the truth with a baseball bat, which many do. It pushes them further away from the truth, man. They don't want to be a part of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We must show them unity, compassion, love, and this thing is it. We must show them that an awakening is very well needed. And y'all's my witness, man. I will die trying to do that for my people, man.
Yeah. And the key thing is the understanding is that at some point it transitions from just being about something. It transitions from being something that you just know,
right,
to something that's real and intimate. There's not going to be any type of transformation in anybody just from gaining information.
Right.
Once you have a genuine experience with Messiah, that's the thing that changes people's lives. If all I gotta do is go to the library and that's saving my soul. You know what I mean? The library ain't really doing it for you, right? Mm-hmm. What's doing it for you is understanding who Messiah is and actually meeting Messiah and him coming and changing your life. And the proof of that being that you actually begin to again manifest his character in your life. Okay, so that being said, we will go ahead and be done with this for now and be back, y'all willing, next Shabbat and deal with some more of these scripts.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the Christians kill us tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, all right. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.